Anthony Pepe's watching. That's a childhood friend. Like what's weird about childhood friends, if you like, go ahead and mention like 2 or 3 childhood friends.
Really bad at this. Like, how far back childhood?
Like, I don't know, between the ages of like 8 and 15.
Put me right on the spot. Dude, I don't even talk to anybody anymore.
No, I know, but just name somebody like that you used to like ride your bike with or some shit.
Alex Roberts.
It always sounds like a fake, like that totally sounds like a fake name.
Yeah.
It sounds like you just totally lied to me. Just like when I say that Anthony Pepe used to like live down the street with me.
Well, is
Live down the street from me.
Pepe is his actual name?
Yeah, Anthony Pepe.
Good
the Pepes.
Good for him.
Yep. Italian family. They had a kid for like each age group that we had kids.
Oh. That's always weird how that works out, huh?
Phil Heath just texted me and almost died.
Oh no. The end of the Power Project
Man
podcast.
down, man down. What's going on, Phil Heath?
So for sure, not Heath Evans, it was Phil Heath.
Yeah, wow. I really did almost die.
Not good.
We were talking the other day about my buddy Samoa Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Ross Greaves is watching. What's up, Ross Greaves? That's my brother-in-law. What's up, my man? We were talking the other day about Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
I texted him this morning because we're working on getting him on the podcast. I said, "What are you wearing?" He said, "Polyester gym shorts with no underwear." So he's and then he wrote back, "He go, just think about PE." And I was like, "Oh, like those old coaching shorts." The coaching shorts, like they're gray. They're like either gray or gold color or maroon. It's like the only colors they come in, I think, or blue. Do you know the shorts I'm talking about?
No, I'm
just type in coaching shorts. Look it up on YouTube. They're disgusting. Or maybe type in polyester coaching shorts to really get to the root of this evilness.
Yeah.
Anthony Pepe just wrote Mr. Beams. I don't know what that means necessarily, but I think that's probably the shorts that he wears. There they are.
Is that really them?
Oh, there they are. The old Washington Redskins coaches all wearing them. Yeah, they're too short, and I just don't even know.
Ahead of the game when it comes to high-waisted, though. Look at that.
Yeah. Well, not only high-waisted, but also like the thick band. Like it's like that's Lululemon before Lululemon. We need to get some of those slingshot issued. Let's talk to our boy Charlie Zamora, who heads up the apparel department here.
Yeah, you can go to Gold's and you'll see every girl wearing that type of shorts right now, or leggings or whatever.
God damn, those are disgusting. That's what that is. But yeah, he told me he was wearing that with no underwear. I was like, man, why are you trying to get me all hot and bothered? Get me all excited. Yeah, it'd be great to have him on the show. We're working on Phil Heath. We're working on all kinds of people. We do have Jay Cutler. We got him down. We got him. It's hard to get. These people are busy, man, and I feel like I'm the only one that's not busy because I'm like just firing out questions to them all day, and they're like, I know that they're thinking on their end. They're like, doesn't he have something to do? But I don't have anything to do because I have other people run everything for me. So. I don't have shit to do other than bug other people about being on my podcast.
That's cool.
Come on my podcast. Get on my podcast.
I got to get on that level.
I know. I'm on a new level.
A whole new level. When you sent me the link to Samoa Joe's like highlight reel, I was blown away. I couldn't believe some of the stuff he was doing.
He's a freak, man. He really is. He's been a friend for a long time. I wrestled in UPW with him in Los Angeles, California for a long time, and he was a brute, man. He's really rough too in the ring. He's a good worker. He's a good wrestler. But man, you don't want to be on his bad side, man. That's a very, very tough, very strong individual. And he's somebody that was going to retire. He was going to retire from pro wrestling because they kept giving him shit about his weight. And they're like, "You're too fat. You don't look like this guy. You don't look like that guy." And he's like, "I don't want to look like that guy, and I don't want to be like that guy. I want to be myself."
Like a skinny Kurt Angle.
Yeah, Kurt Angle is a beast. I mean, that's another guy that we're working on. And you know how we've been talking about Bo Jackson for quite some time here on the podcast.
Yeah.
We are getting closer. We are getting closer. I actually have a contact of Bo Jackson. So we are working on getting Bo Jackson here on the Power Project, ladies and gentlemen. Working on a couple other people too, Tim Ferriss and some others. I know it sounds funny to sit here and talk about the people that we're going to have on, but I just like putting those wavelengths out there because it's going to happen. We're going to continue to get better. And we're going to continue to improve. We're going to continue to shoot for the fucking stars. You know, we shoot for the stars, we end up in the clouds, right?
Give or take.
So yeah. I mean, well, like our aim's not very good.
We're getting better though.
We are
shooting the bow every day.
We are. I mean, that's all you can ask for, right? Is like there's been improvement.
Yeah. I'm having a lot of fun, but it was funny because you were like, "Hey, you know how much you're shooting the bow? That's how much you need to be benching every day." I'm like, all right.
Yeah, we got to get you in a rhythm with benching. You know, people don't realize sometimes that lifting is similar, and Olympic lifters have taken that to heart and they practice. Power lifters have been smarter to it lately, but they still don't really recognize what a great skill it is to be able to squat and deadlift. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of coordination. If you want to get better at it, you have to do it often. Now, how you do it, obviously, that matters a lot because you can't go in and squat and deadlift, you know, your face off every day. Mm-hmm. But if you just work with sub-maximal weights, in this case, you know, 30% of your max or something like that would be. You know, if you lift 100 pounds, I mean, think about that. You're only using like 30 pounds, so you'd only be using like a bar. But it's practice. You're just trying to move with the weight and learn how you're supposed to move with that weight.
Yeah, I think calling it practice instead of training or lifting or whatever, just saying like I'm gonna go practice my bench right now. It'll keep me in check from not wanting to push more weight than I wanted to. Right. When we benched the other day, you had walked away. And I can't remember the dude's name. We call him Baby Fat. He's like, "What do you want on there?"
Baby Fat, yeah.
And I looked. You were walked away, so I'm like, "Let's go plate and a quarter," because I know you would have said, "No, you can't do that."
Right.
And yeah, sure enough, I couldn't push it.
Yeah, it was a little. Yeah, it was a little too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, lifting is it's a tough thing to stay in your lane. I think when we think about. You know, and so this is a conversation I had yesterday with this guy that was in yesterday, this guy, William, who's a Power Ranger, a real, actual Power Ranger. He's the Red Ranger, the actual Red Ranger that you see in the Power Ranger movie. And, and you know, because some people just dress up in those costumes like that, you know. Mm-hmm. He's actually the real Power Ranger. Anyway, yeah, he came into the gym. And he was here with his girlfriend, and they got a training session in. And, you know, kind of depending on the person, depending on kind of the vibe I get from them and stuff, is all dependent on how much time I spend with them. Now, they were coming from Los Angeles, and that's a long drive. So I want to make sure I spent some time with them. But what I was explaining to William was, you know, things can't be forced. He was talking about how he got his role as the Red Ranger and how he wants to be an actor and he wants to be taken more seriously with acting and he wants to kind of kick things up to the next level. And we were talking about how you can get pigeonholed into people thinking that you're just the Red Ranger all the time. And then we also talked about how he got his role as the Red Ranger. And he said that, you know, for a long time he'd wake up at 4 a.m. and he had this kind of ritual and routine of these different things he was doing to get the role. And as we got talking further, you know, I said, you know, things can't be forced. It's when you want something, you're going to have to prove to the universe that you deserve it. And you're going to have to figure out a way to earn it. At the same time, things can't be forced. You can't wake up at 4 a.m. and force things to happen. Especially when you're not getting to bed on time, because then you're not efficient. And so what we talked about was just having an awakening. And that's what I wanted to talk about on this podcast specifically, was to educate people on, are there things that you're doing that seem positive but are actually kind of negative? Are there things that you're overdoing, such as your training? you can sleep too much, you can lift too much, you can lift too heavy, you can lift too often, you can run too much, you can eat too much, you can eat too many carbs, you can eat too much protein, you can eat too much fat. The list goes on and on of all these things that we can kind of do that we might be thinking this is good. Like, for example, eating. You might think, okay, well, I need to be nutritious. I want to have a good training session, so I'm going to eat. But it could be to your detriment. Maybe you eat too much, and when you get to the gym, you feel fucking sluggish. So there's a lot of things that happen like that. And there's a lot of, we're so quick to judge other people. We're so quick to cast a spell on somebody else and say, look at that guy, look what he's doing wrong. But when you think about all the things that you're trying to do, you start to really end up realizing that you're doing a lot of shit wrong yourself. And that's what having an awakening is about. And that's what, you could take things a step further and call it being enlightened. A lot of this comes from personal development. A lot of this comes from learning about yourself. A lot of this comes from being by yourself. In my opinion, it's the only true way to really learn about yourself is to be by yourself. The only way to really be by yourself and the only way to really learn about yourself is to have self-respect, which is a fucking hard thing to earn. And we'll get to that in a minute because I'll write that down and I'll make sure I freaking go back to that because that's huge. Self-respect is the greatest respect that you can ever earn. And it's not anything you can purchase from anybody else. And I want to kind of talk about that, and I'll even talk about depression, how that factors in, and how I believe that so many of these things are factored into your food, which is really kind of fucked up because, there's so many people suffering from depression. And when you think about the different things that can happen in your body from food, let's just take niacin, for example, or B vitamin, right? Something might have a lot of niacin in it, and it can make your skin red and itchy. Out of nowhere, you just be flush, something just, and we've all eaten something before that has made us feel a certain way or had some sort of certain reaction to something. Well, I believe that food can do that even in terms of making you feel good and even in terms of making you feel bad. You can dive down that rabbit hole as deep as you want, and you can start to look into yin and yang and all this weird shit, and you can get crazy with it. But I'll scratch the surface on all that stuff in a little bit. But what I'm talking about with this awakening is you need to have some recognition. Where are you in your life? What are you doing? And what are some of your goals? Like, who are you? That's a good question to answer. Who are you? And then who are you trying to become? I wrote a thing today about my father-in-law passing away, and I don't remember if it ended up in the final edit because it took me a long time to word it. He just passed away on Monday, and it's been rough. It was last Monday, and it's been a really hard couple of days. Devastating to have a fucking family member die, especially when they're a badass like he was. So it's hard to kind of pick up the pieces. But when I was writing in there, I kind of wrote about the house that they had that I first visited when I first got when I first started to get to know my wife. I ended up meeting David, her or my father-in-law. And when I met him, I remember being in their house and just being overwhelmed. They lived on the golf course in Davis. They lived in this big, beautiful home. I mean, the place was huge, and they had a pool outside, and they had like a pool house to kind of go along with the pool, like where you could dry off and stuff, like a house for that. And they had like some 2-car garage type thing. I mean, they had a lot of nice stuff. It was a beautiful, beautiful house. And I remember just kind of looking around in there, and I was like, man, I can't even afford like that fucking lamp over there, or that painting on the wall, or that vase over there. As I was looking around the room, I was like, man, I not only could I not afford, there's absolutely no way I'd be able to afford to buy the house, obviously, and there's no way I could afford the mortgage. There's no way I could afford to rent a room from here, and there's no way I can afford, even just some of the things that are in here because it was really nice. And as I was writing this passage, I wrote, as I was writing this thing today, this post, I wrote, at the time, I was, and I wrote the word just, a pro wrestler and bouncer. And the reason why that has significance is because that's what I thought of myself at that time. And I would never say that I would never in a million years now say I'm just an inventor. I would never treat myself that way. I would never say that about myself. But at the time, that's what I thought I was. I thought I was just that. I thought I was locked into that identity. And I thought I was the person that other people, I thought I was the person that I thought other people thought I was. So, as confusing as that may be, it was my perception of what I thought, the feelings that other people had towards me, not even real feelings that they had towards me. It was the way that I thought that they thought about me was my reality. And I was dumb. I was a lifter. I was a meathead. And I was a pro wrestler, and I was a bouncer, and I couldn't figure out anything else. That's just where I was, and that's what I thought of myself. And so as I wrote that today, I looked at that and I was like, wow, I certainly don't feel that way anymore. Mm-hmm. And, like, I think you need to go through some of these things to have a realization of what you are at that time. Now, had I known some of the things I know now, I think I would have been able to help myself out faster. Obviously, like, I don't regret any of the route that I took. I don't have any regrets in my life. I feel very comfortable and very strong about a lot of the things that have happened. However, if I was somebody susceptible to, like, depression, or if I was somebody susceptible to getting down on, having an idea like the slingshot and then being rejected, as I was many times over, then it could have been game over for me. But luckily, I had the support, and some people don't have that support. Luckily, I had family. I had my dad. I had my mom. I had mentors later on in life, like David, that I could look up to and say, holy shit, man, this guy makes machines that the company that all these huge companies that have almonds and walnuts, this company Diamond, General Mills, which has cereal. Everybody knows what I mean, this guy was a beast, and he really did some things to his own tune. And he made these machines that help separate out by weight. It helps separate out discarded like almonds and macadamia nuts and those types of things. When they didn't weigh a proper amount, it meant that they were probably burnt or broken, and so his machine would kick it out. And so, like when you have cereal and you get to the end of the cereal and sometimes there's like burnt shit at the bottom.
Yeah.
His machine was responsible for kicking most of that stuff out. Now, obviously, there's always going to be some error. You're going to have some things filtering through when you deal with that much, making that much product like that. But the product that he had they were called air legs, and it measured these items by weight. He owned a company called American Industrial Manufacturing, which is still in Woodland, California. It's called AIM, American Industrial Manufacturing. And he had these machines called air legs. And he was an inventor and a creator and somebody that worked on these machines to be able to kick these things out. Now, if you ask somebody like him what he did, he wouldn't say, I'm just an engineer, right? Like, he would be like, oh, I do. He would just probably be all hyped up and say, I own this company and I do boom, 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 boom. And he would just like fucking hit you over the head with it. And you'd be like, damn, that guy's a beast, man. He does all these cool things. And so, how you're defined is oftentimes how you define yourself. And you got to be careful of how you define yourself, because you could lead yourself down a shitty path. So, as I was writing this thing out and I was looking that over, it just kind of occurred to me. I was like, wow. Now, looking back at that time, I didn't really have specific goals. And I think that that's okay, because I think that it takes time. And for those of you that listen to this show and that have children, you might be in for a rude awakening, because it might take your child until they're about 30 to figure out which direction they're going in. The things that matter are always the things that have always mattered. Is the person a good person, and do they have a good strong heart? Everything else, Everything else is a learning process, and the only way to really truly learn is through experience. And so sometimes you're going to have to go through some things yourself. But when it comes to having an awakening, you could potentially wake up earlier, and you could potentially pay attention to the things that are going around and the things that are going on around you sooner. So, for example, let's say with something like photography. Let's just say that Andrew, snapped some photos, and at some point he's like, okay, boom, photography, that's it. That's what I want to do. Even if he ends up in something else, it's fine, because that's what always happens. That's the way it works. Now, if you can get a singular focus on something like that, now you don't have to be a maniac. You don't have to all of a sudden like enlist in a bunch of classes for photography. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to figure out the absolute shortest route to the top is to get a mentor.
Absolutely.
The absolute shortest route is to figure out, I wonder, or even just watch a mentor, even if it's from afar. Doesn't matter how far. It could be through the internet.
Yeah.
You're just watching some dude and you're like, man, shit, how does he, So the second thing that's going to factor in there, number one is get a mentor. Number two is going to be practice. You're going to have to practice. Now, you saw what that mentor did, and maybe you don't know the camera, maybe you don't know the setting, maybe you don't know any of that stuff, but you go out with your buddies and you dick around and you take 1,500 shots. Mm-hmm. And then you go back and you look at the negatives and you're looking at everything and you're like, man, I thought he shot it this way, but like, I don't know, he didn't even, I'm not even close. And then you go back and you talk to your friends and you keep trying to figure it out. Now, in that process, there's so many other things that factor into your success and you moving forward. Everything from what you eat and what you drink and when you go to sleep and what you read, and where you spend your time. Who do you spend your time talking to? If you're chasing down chicks on the internet, it's going to be really hard for you to make progress because that's where your mind is most of the time. So a lot of times, even just having like a girlfriend can help accelerate stuff because now your mind and your dick aren't in a bunch of different spots where they probably shouldn't be. I mean, let's face it, as men, we have testosterone, and we're going to have things that pull us away from doing what we're supposed to do as much as we need to do to make progress. So we're going to spend a bunch of time like beating off or chasing after chicks when we're left to our own devices. Right?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
I mean,
it's harder to stay focused when, yeah.
I mean, I've talked about this before and people get a little weird, but like there's just fantasies in your head, and it doesn't always have to be sexual fantasies that I'm referring to, but just once your mind starts to kind of drift down those things, it's hard to get your mind off of any of that. Whether it be you being rich and living, in some fucking castle or whatever, or whether it's you, nailing 15 chicks in one day, it doesn't matter really what it is. It's hard to get your mind off of that and to refocus back in on the shit that you need to focus on. So when it comes to you're trying to have this singular focus towards, I want to be a photographer, and you have all these other things in the way, you'd have to kind of like figure out, okay, in order for me to do what I want to do, let's just say that the shots that you want to get are early in the morning. It's a fucking birds or whatever, or it's a sunset or who knows what it is. Whatever that is, whatever that looks like, you're going to have to prep your day for that. So if you like to drink coffee, which is kind of a positive, like, hey, let's have a cup of coffee. You're all happy and excited. Let's throw down some coffee. Well, coffee could be detrimental. Going to sleep too late can be detrimental. The coffee could be something that's leading you to not get the night of sleep that you want to. You could have a couple drinks at night and celebrate something fun that you did, and you can think, oh, the alcohol will actually help me sleep, but it'll actually mess up your sleep. We're sorry about that little burp in there. Your sleep won't be as productive. Like, we already know some of these things. So some of these things that you just think are like little side things could really be things that could derail you. And I'm not saying to be a robot. because I don't believe in that. I think you have to live your life. And I think when it comes to eating cake or eating fries or eating some of these things, within reason, you should allow for some of that so that you're not a robot and so that you can live your life. Because the worst thing you can do is to, die without ever actually living. You want to make sure you're living and make sure you're living the life that you want to live. Part of the reason for trying to be quote unquote great, or part of the reason for financial freedom, is so that you can fucking take your middle finger and shove it up everybody's ass and tell them to go fuck themselves, because you do things your own way on your own time with your own money the way that you want when you want to do it. And you don't have to listen to fucking anybody else. So if you want to wake up at 10 o'clock, then you can wake up at 10 o'clock. You want to wake up in the afternoon, you can. It just doesn't matter, because you're writing your own ticket. You're writing your own book. And I think that's some things that people get lost in. And they kind of forget some of these reasons why. Now, it's not just for that, but it's not just so you can tell everybody to fuck off. It's so you can kind of live the life that you want to live. Maybe it's just you want to spend a ton of time with your kids. Maybe it's you want to spend a ton of time fundraising for cancer or something. Like who knows what it is exactly. It could be for a worthy cause rather than telling everybody to go fuck themselves.
But you'll have the option to do whatever you want.
You'll have the option to do whatever you'd really like to do. And so when it, kind of back to some of this topic again, I've been in this myself. I've had things like this happen to me where I'm like, okay, I want to wake up at 4 and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Well, first of all, waking up at 4 every day is probably not realistic for most people. And if you wake up at 4 one day just to wake up at 9 the next day, then that's not really accomplishing the goal either. You're going to have to try to set forth as many things possible to go towards that goal as you possibly can. The more discipline and the more willpower and the more habits you can form that are geared towards that goal, the faster that you can get there. It's not like some, crazy idea. And so have the awakening. Open your fucking eyes. We had a lifter here years ago who sold real estate. He drove a Humvee with his last name on the side of the door, and like he was a little flashy and so on, right? Like we all know real estate guys like this, right? They're a little, over the top. You're like, come on, bro.
Kind of gross.
Yeah, come on, bro. It's kind of gross. Well, this guy was in my gym. My mom never even comes to my gym. It's very rare for her to be here. My mom came to the gym that day just to say hi and just to kind of see me. Her and my dad will pop in every once. Sometimes I'm even lifting, which is kind of cool. It's kind of fun. They get to see me, lift some weights, and they've come to all my baseball games, the football games, basketball, all that shit when I was a kid. And so it's kind of nostalgic. It's kind of fun when they're here. But my mom popped in on this one day, and she kind of said hi to everybody. And people love when my parents come around. They're used to seeing them. That's always been the way my life has always been. From the time I was a kid, my parents always been around for everything. And some other kids would call my parents mom and dad just because like they were just always there. They were there more than their own parents might have been there sometimes. So my mom is just kind of kicking it. She's chatting with her boyfriend Juan. Juan and her have some thing going on. I don't know what's going on with that shit, Juan, but Jesus Christ, buddy.
Oh, no.
You better settle down. My dad's going to knock you out again. My dad punched him out one time. He might have to do it again. And so this guy, he comes over and he's this real estate guy, and my mom says, "Hey, how's everything going?" He goes, "Mrs. Bell, couldn't be better. Just living the dream." She just shook her head, took one look at him, and she said, "You better wake the hell up then."
Wow.
Because my mom knows bullshit when she sees it. And so that guy, the guy was kidding around. Mm-hmm. But my mom wasn't. My mom knew, like, this guy's a fucking tool. And he needs somebody to put him in his place.
That's awesome.
And he was just like, "Oh, Mrs. Bell, everything's going great." And who knows what, my mom probably hit the nail on the head. The guy's life probably in total misery at the time. But the point to some of that is that, when it comes to the way that you feel about yourself, or when it comes to, hold on a second here, I'm getting
A little dry pocket.
Yeah, a little hot pocket. When it comes to, waking the fuck up from the way that you feel about yourself, or it comes to waking up about what you're really doing towards your goal, you can really start to open your eyes and really start to see where all the holes are. You really start to see where all the fallacies are and all the lies you're telling yourself, really. You're like, man, I'm really trying, man. I don't know why I can't get a gig with this, photography, or I don't know why I can't get a job with being a personal trainer or whatever. And it's you it's you bullshitting yourself. You're not really doing all the things. You're doing a couple things probably, but you're not really doing all the things. And something I just heard the other day from our boy, Andy Frisella, he said that a lot of times people will say, well, people keep telling me that I can't. Or he said, let's face the facts. You don't really have haters. You don't really have people in your life that are that negative. Every once in a while, like if you're a kid and you have an overbearing parent that's abusive and stuff, I mean, those situations are not what I'm talking about here. But in general, you don't have people that are really physically stopping you from doing anything. Our haters and the people that might make comments online aren't slashing our tires. Mm-hmm. They're not smashing our windows at our home, and they're not putting graffiti on, our gym walls or what, right? Like, so it's not nearly as bad as the picture that you're painting.
Yeah. And it seems like they usually don't show up until you've actually started to kind of move forward with what you want to do. But by then it's like they're too late.
Yeah. Yeah. And they might be like, oh, you can't. And then they're kind of looking at you like, oh, shit. Like, well, I guess I can't say anything because he sort of did.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right. They're not adding that extra cup of coffee at night that's going to keep you up late that day to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's very well said.
Yeah. And if you're, again, you're not going to be a robot. You're going to be open to a lot of these things that are suggestive and persuasive and sexy. These things are going to creep into your life, and there's not a way to completely avoid them all the time. But you're going to let those things in, you're going to absorb them, and you're going to reevaluate, how does this help me? How does this hurt? How does this help? How does this hurt? That's a conversation that you need to have. And when you have this awakening, you can say to yourself, hey, you know what? Maybe I drink too much coffee. Maybe I don't sleep enough. Maybe I try to wake up too early. Maybe I go to bed too late. Maybe I watch too much TV. Maybe I'm on my phone too much. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that you're on Instagram too much? What would be too much? Do you have any idea how many times you check your phone? Do you have any idea how many times you're on Instagram or Facebook or some form of social media? Do you have any idea on what that looks like versus your interaction with your own wife, your own significant other? What do you do first thing in the morning? Do you kiss your wife in the morning, or your girlfriend, or whoever it is, boyfriend? Do you kiss them and tell them that you love them, or do you reach for your phone? What are we reaching for? What are we showing people when we sit down and when we sit down for dinner? Or even sit down at some business meetings and stuff. What's the first thing we do? We take the phone out of our pocket, because it is kind of uncomfortable to have it in your front pocket. That's why I take it out. That's my excuse. But then you put it on the table, which kind of just sends a message like, hey, if you're boring, then I'm fucking whipping out this phone and you're insignificant, right?
Yeah.
And so it gets to be really hard, and this is something I'm working on, and I suck at it, but I'm trying. I'm trying just to be present for whatever it is that I'm doing at the moment, because while you and I are in conversation about podcasts, you and I are in conversation about, how you hurt your shoulder doing something, it doesn't do you any good, and it certainly does me a huge disservice to be playing on my phone while you're asking me a question, even if I can halfway answer it. There is no such thing as multitasking. It doesn't exist. It makes you suck at whatever it is you're doing. I mean, the research shows that when people try to text and drive, that they drive worse than even if they fucking drank. So, I mean, you just try to put that into context of you answering a question for your kid, saying, hey, John's dad said he's going to pick me up at 3:30. And you're like, yeah. And you're emailing or texting somebody. Mm-hmm. You didn't even hear what the fuck he just said. Or they said you didn't hear it, or maybe you kind of heard it, but now you're not really sure. Now 4:00 rolls around. Where's your kid? You're like, I don't know, because you weren't fucking paying attention. Like, you could be missing some pretty big stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
And my whole point of a lot of this stuff is that that's still going to be sitting there. It'll be fine. You'll be able to get to that later. And that's when you want to try to figure out, how do I have pockets of time for some of these things? Other people are getting ahead. Other people are moving fast. Well, I just need to move faster. I don't think you need to move faster. I think you need to really reevaluate what you're doing. And I think you need to have an awakening about where you're spending your time, how you're spending your time, and are there things that you're doing that are detrimental when you think they might be even positive? I'll use an example of weight loss. Weight loss parallels everything so well, and so does lifting weights, really. But in this case, we'll use losing weight. John Cena just collapsed. He didn't want to hear about losing weight. He just fell down. We can kind of all agree that, if somebody's pretty fat, then they can lose a couple of pounds a week safely, and they'll be fine, right? And that can continue for a little while, but in general, they should probably only lose about 1 to 2, maybe on the high end, like 3 pounds. And who knows what those pounds look like if they're all water weight or muscle or whatever. Within reason, that should slow down quite a bit. And from a health standpoint, we should only lose like 1 pound a week. Well, if we just keep forcing ourselves, we just continue to not eat, and we continue to drink coffee, and we continue to do cardio, yeah, we can probably expedite that process, and we can probably lose weight faster. We can probably continue to lose weight. But how does this help? How does this hurt? Let's back it up for a second. Well, this hurts tremendously. I know some people that have lost weight through. Some people will say you can lose weight just fine, just by dialing back your food. And I would say, fuck that. You kind of can, and you kind of can't. You're kind of screwing yourself, because what you're going to do is you're going to reduce your caloric intake. You're going to teach your body how to run off of less fuel. Your body's going to be, you're going to slow your metabolism down, and potentially you might be losing muscle mass while you're doing all that, which is the absolute worst thing that you can do. If you lost 5 pounds and 2 pounds of it are muscle, you're really in a bad spot, because as you continue to lose more and more weight, if the percentage kind of keeps going, let's say you lost 10 pounds and now you lost 4 pounds of muscle mass. That's a lot. That's a lot of muscle mass. I don't even know if that's possible to happen in that way, but let's just hypothetically say that you lost about 10 pounds and nearly half of it is from your muscle. Well, what happens when you even just go through the holidays? What happens when that Halloween candy comes out and it breaks the seal for Thanksgiving? It breaks the seal for Christmas, which turns into the New Year and everything else, right? Well, now you have less muscle mass. Your body, when people talk about the metabolism, let's just hypothetically say that they're referring to like how many calories that you burn in a day. Well, you fucked yourself, because you are going to burn less calories now. Your whole goal was to be in better shape and to be healthier and to look better. Well, now you can't look better because you disarmed yourself. You chopped off some of your muscle mass. That muscle mass burns calories while you're not doing anything. So the fastest way, well, not the fastest way, but a more productive way to go about doing that, there's a lot of different things you can do, but probably the most productive way is just to increase your activity a little bit. If your activity is not already through the roof. If your activity is already through the roof, you might want to reevaluate something else, because then we get into that whole category of, how does this help? How does this hurt? Am I exercising too much? You have some people that will say, like Cameron Haynes, for example. Cameron Haynes, from a running perspective, I don't know anything about running. And Cameron Haynes runs like he's like literally like an animal, like he's like an elk or something, or a fucking deer, or whatever you want to call it, like whatever the fuck can run up and down a hill, and not make any noise and be very efficient. He does that. But when it comes to his actual lifting, and again, I don't know a ton about running, it seems like his lifting was overdone. And now I've overdone my whole life. I've overdone everything pretty much. But as long as you are aware of it, then you can start to take action towards it or action with it to prep for that. Maybe Cameron has been doing those style of workouts for a while. Maybe he's kind of used to them. But we did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reps of chest, and my complaint towards that would be, I know that he told us that his goal was to be a better runner. And so when you get specific and when you say a goal and then you do things that don't match up with that goal, that's when I start to have a problem. And I start to say, let's look at this. And I love Cameron Haynes. He was an awesome guy to be around. And I can't wait to have him here again. Can't wait to have him here at Super Training and do more stuff with him. The guy's fucking phenomenal person. But it's the same thing as me striving for that 600-pound bench that I was striving for. There was pieces that I was missing and I kept hurting myself. There was some technique flaws that I had in my bench press that I never corrected. Chad Wesley Smith told me to correct him or I'd get hurt again. He was correct. You have to have an awakening about these things. Like what can I have done differently? How can I go into that battle next time? And there's just so many different things that can happen when you start to open up this can of worms on something like this, because now we're looking at just a cup of coffee could be the thing that's holding you back from everything. I'm not saying that coffee's bad. I love coffee. I had coffee today. It's probably why I'm talking so much. Coffee's phenomenal. I'm not saying it's bad, but is it possible that you drink too much of it and that it's taking you away from your goal because you're not getting the rest that you need? You're not getting the recovery that you need. And I know some people will sit there and go, fuck it, you don't need to sleep. I know all these things because I've already done all of them. I did not sleep, and I mean it 100% when I say it. I did not sleep for 3 years of my life when I was chasing down some of those big numbers, and it didn't work. It didn't work. I got to 2,300 pounds, 2,400 pounds, 2,500 pounds, 2,600 pounds. But when it came to trying to get to that next gear where some of the other big boys were going, my body wouldn't do it. I would no longer get any stronger. It didn't matter how fat I was, didn't matter how many steroids I tried to pump into my body or whatever it was I was trying to do. It didn't matter what I was doing. Nothing was going to work at that point, because the longest that I would sleep at a given time would be like 2 or 3 hours. And some of that was partly because I was obsessed with trying to be better. And some of that was partly due to the fact that I made myself unhealthy. So you see, again, okay, goal is to squat 1,100 pounds. Okay, to squat 1,100 pounds, I need to weigh a lot. Okay, I'm going to weigh a lot. Okay, hold on a second. Do I weigh too much? Is it possible for me to weigh too much? Yes. In my effort to want to squat more weight and weigh more, did I make myself unhealthy and compromise my performance? 100%. If you can't sleep, then you can't grow. I mean, the research that's coming out on sleep, I mean, I know sometimes some of us are like, blah, 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 whatever. You think of all these great people, Michael Jordan, Bo Jackson, Mike Tyson, like, you're like, they didn't fucking sleep, or Bill Gates didn't sleep, or, right? And you got people that joke about it nowadays. They're like, fuck sleep, but you need it. You need it. How does it help? How does it hurt? We all know what it feels like to not have sleep, so I don't have to explain exactly, what that does. But I think you can start to plainly see, as we were talking to Andy Frisella, Andy Frisella, you get around somebody like that and your eyes just, boom, they just bulge out of your head, because he's got, man, I don't know. I'm just going to make a guess, and I'm probably insult him. I think he's got probably like $3 million in cars.
Jeez.
I don't know. Have you seen a lot of different cars he's got?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many that I can't even like. And they're like classic cars, muscle cars, and then, big giant like monster
trucks. What's up,
trucks
Scott Owen? Another one of my family members popping on here. Maybe Facebook Live's not so bad. There's not that many people on here, but it's got a couple. For all my family members that haven't been paying attention, I own a gym. It's called Super Training Gym, and it's in West Sacramento, California. And I've had it for over a decade. And we're here on Mark Bell's Power Project. You can go to powerproject.live and follow this. This is on YouTube. And by the way, I never even say this, but we need more people to follow powerproject.live. We have doubled in the last like month and a half or so. It's been really going great, but we need more people. I need more people to comment on iTunes. I'm not I am doing this for free. I could easily, put ads in here and make six figures, and Andrew and I could be in here with a hot tub. We can be doing a podcast from a hot tub, rolling a joint. But we chose to stick this route out, and as a result of that, we need your help. We need you guys to fight for us. We need you guys to tell other people, tell your friends about Mark Bell's Power Project. Make them tell their friends. Otherwise, you're going to punch them in the face. Leave us likes, leave us comments wherever you can. Follow us on Instagram, Mark Bell's Power Project, and on iTunes. Rate us, because we need, as we get ranked and we get rated, the more views that we get. When I go to somebody like Bo Jackson, who we've been working on for the last 4 years, when I get somebody like that and I have their ear, I have it for about 15 seconds. And that window closes real fast and real hard, because what are you going to say to Bo Jackson? Oh, I've been a fan of yours. Come on.
Game over.
Now I sound like everybody that's ever come up to me, right? It's hard to explain to that person that's impacted you that much what they mean to you, but there's nothing I can say or do that would mean anything more to them than to just say, hey, my podcast is number one, right? If I said my podcast is number one, we don't have to talk any further. He's like, well, I'm not going on a number 2 podcast. I'm going on number 1. So here we go. And that's how that stuff works. So we need, we could use your help. And if you're finding the information here, like if you're like, fuck, man, Mark talking about this awakening thing, this is the real deal, share it with other people. You can help other people.
It doesn't take much to just tell a friend.
Yeah, God damn it.
Yeah. Going back to about like waking up and whatnot, a lot of times, like, I'll be talking to somebody who I'm just frustrated with, like, dude, why can't you just get it together? Like, what's the problem here?
We all have buddies like that, right?
And, I don't know what to do. I'm like, dude, just work your ass off, work hard. But, so I'm guilty of telling somebody, just keep working. But I think it's safe to say that part of the work is trying to get to bed early. I know I for sure forget, like, okay, I busted my ass all day long. Like, okay, now I gotta get home and okay, I'm gonna relax. Oh no.
John Cena's, he's like,
he's having a rough day.
Yeah.
But if we get into the mindset of like, hey, work's not over because I technically clocked out, I'm still on life's clock where I'm gonna have to prep meals for the next day. I'm gonna have to get my shit together for the next morning.
Yeah.
And then get into bed at a decent time. I think if, the good, better, best, but also what you're saying, like, how does this help me? How does this hurt? I was a big proponent of that before I got here. It was like everything I was doing, I had to make sure it was to benefit my photography. And I did get a little crazy with it. Like I definitely did too much, but I couldn't avoid it. At that point, it was like, it was more than just passion,
I just saw my wife. He called me. Can you text her and tell her that I'm leaving in 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, she just said, on your way?
Oh, no.
Anyway, no, I mean, what you said was fantastic, because that is, the whole thing is, in what I do, it's called turnaround time. Mm-hmm. So I will give Andrew a project, and what's his turnaround time look like? Turnaround time is another way of saying, hey, if you get this done really quick, there's more opportunity there for you. If it takes you 7 days to edit a podcast, then there's no opportunity for you. Like, all right, well, that's cool that you wanted to help, but like, you sucked and it took too long and we need faster turnaround time. So I'm going to have to, I like you, but I'm going to have to find something else for you to do. Mm-hmm. And so you can really miss out on a lot of life's opportunities. I mean, you just think about the different places you can end up and the different things you can end up doing if you only made the right choice all the time. If you made the right choice over and over and over again, what would that lead to? What if you did What if you did wake up at 4 a.m. and you did do some of the work that you're supposed to do because you got yourself to bed on time? And what if when you went to the local coffee shop to grab your kids a bagel or whatever the hell it is you're going to get, and you're going to sit there and do some work, and you're going to bring that stuff back to them before you start your own day? What if while you were on that trip, you ran into fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Or like to a much lesser degree, what if you sat down and the guy next to you had this sick ass camera? And you're like, dude, what's that? He'd be like, oh, I work for YouTube and we rent out these cameras and we do it. And then you're like, what? Like, what are you doing? Or, yeah, I own, the biggest podcast. You just don't know. You don't know who you're going to run into or how. And obviously those are kind of like side situations. But the biggest thing is to have good, strong turnaround time on what it is you're doing. Sometimes I'll get back from here too late. Last night, I ended up in a conversation with this kid, William, who I thought it was very important for me to spend time with him. Now, I'll tell you something. I'll say it right now. That kid's going to turn into something big. He's already doing some pretty cool stuff, but I can see it. I can just fucking sense it from him. He's a good person, and I can see that he's got the work ethic to get a lot of these things done. But as I was talking to him, I'm going through my checklist of things in my head. Fuck, it would be a lot better if I was home right now. It'd be a lot better if I was cooking up my ribeye because I need to cook my steak. I need to recover from this workout. I should probably get in a hot tub so I feel better when I wake up tomorrow morning. I also should probably take a shower so I don't have to worry about a shower first thing in the morning, and so that everything's already kind of preset. And I didn't do a lot of those things. And so therefore I ended up waking up later, but sometimes it's okay. Like I thought there was value in what I was doing, and that was helping somebody else, and that was communicating with somebody else. There's also things that happen here at Super Training that are kind of hard to explain sometimes. I noticed from him, he was very open right away. I noticed from his girlfriend, she was very closed right away. Maybe she has a perception of me that's not great. Maybe she's heard him talk about me all the time. She's like, fuck, that guy's kind of a dick. So what I did was I killed her with kindness the whole time. That's why I was going over like her bench, and I was going over some of these. It helped that she was hot. But that's why we were going over a lot of these things. That's why we were working on a lot of this stuff, is because I place a lot of value on that. And so a couple things took a hit, and now I'm like going to be late-ish again because I'm late going home we're going to the beach, and it's, but those are the kinds of things that are going to happen. It's going to bleed into, it's a hangover from one day to the next. You got to figure out a way to kind of clean yourself off of some of the shit that's coming your way so you can get to where you need to get to on time.
Yeah. One question I had for you just personally, you were talking, basically like when you were talking about you were afraid of what people thought of you, and or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you're saying like you define yourself and whatnot. How do you think positively of yourself without sounding arrogant?
Well, it has to be. It's gonna. So that's where like doing stuff is important, because it has to be factual.
Yeah.
And I talk about like putting up points on the scoreboard.
Right.
Putting up points on the scoreboard isn't the things that you're supposed to do. It's the extra stuff that maybe somebody wasn't anticipating you doing. You've seen me do that time and time again here. Like you had your first cover for Power Magazine, and you and I have talked, and I've been around you enough to know that that's important to you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, cool. Like and then you took just a sick photo. I was like, that is okay. That's, not only do I want that blown up for myself, but like we need to get that blown up because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's the first thing that you did, and it's the cover of a fucking magazine. It's going to be at Barnes and Noble. I'm like, this is huge. This is great. And so that's putting up points on the scoreboard. When you take something that may be kind of, just kind of sitting there, but then you fucking blow it up. And that could be all kinds of things. I mean, even like your 10-minute walks and just doing the right thing over and over again can turn into points. just being on your diet can be some points for the day. Picking your kid up from the school wouldn't classify because you have to pick your kid up from school.
Yeah.
Picking your kid up from school and doing something special with them, that would be points on the scoreboard. Remembering that they have been dying to go to this movie, and you pick them up from school and say, hey, it's already set. I got tickets for you and your friend, and we're going, and like, you guys get to sit and chill wherever you want. I'll be in the back of the theater, so you don't have to worry about dad embarrassing you and being annoying. Just those kinds of things. That's how you you pick up those points, right? And then when somebody says something about you, or I'm sorry, not when they say something about you, when they ask you, like, hey, what do you do? Or they ask you something in reference to photography, in reference to podcasting. You're no longer speaking arrogantly, and you're not speaking anything but the truth. You just say, oh yeah, Mark and I, we've done about 50 podcasts, and here's how we do it.
Yeah.
And what you just said, because of the equipment that you use, and because of the speed at which you said it, because you know the frequency of the volume, and you know how to hook it up to the fucking phone so people can call in, and all these different things. So out of context, somebody would be like, oh man, that guy fucking thinks he's hot shit.
Yeah.
It's just plain old facts. And you're like, this is just what it is. Like, somebody will look at me and they'll say, hey man, how much do you bench? 854. I don't need to say anything else. It's a fact. That's what I did. That's, I don't, you're going to be shocked about it, or you're going to say bullshit or whatever. You can say whatever you want, but that's just the way it is. That's what I did.
So do shit and then be proud of it.
Yeah. You're gonna just, it's gonna be accumulation of you doing stuff, over a period of time. And then how do you feel good about yourself if you haven't really done anything yet? That starts to get a little bit trickier, but that's where just being kind, fucking wearing a smile a lot, like it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to be happy all the time. I would say, like, I've been trying to judge this for myself over the last couple of weeks, just because it's something I kind of stumbled upon. I was like, I'm always thinking about being positive. I'm thinking about being happy and stuff within reason. Not going around and being some weirdo. But as you get thinking about some of these things, I thought to myself, I'm like, I wonder if I've definitely had a day where I've been negative. Like, I've definitely had a day where not only was I negative for a little while, I was negative almost the whole day. The day was just rough. Man, that really sucked when this happened, and my fucking brother died, and this happened, and this guy, my best friend is sick, and I don't have any money, and right, and just stockpiling bullshit on top of yourself, right? Car breaks down, all these different, you just have these really frustrating days. But I was trying to think about, in terms of being positive, I was like, have I ever had a day where the whole day I was positive, and like anything that came in negative, I was like a fucking ninja, and I just boomerang that shit back out to somebody else, or deflected it off to somebody, like, it's almost like you have a shield for negativity, and you just fucking put it out in front of you, and you make it beam towards somebody else. I thought to myself, I don't think I ever had a day where it was just like, all positive the whole day. And so when it can be difficult to feel good about yourself if you're not actually feeling good. And that's where self-respect comes in. You're going to have to figure out some form of discipline. You're going to have to figure out something to make yourself feel good about yourself. Now, most people have something, or they already found something, whether it's drawing or math, or building stuff, making a box, fucking cooking pancakes, or cooking. There's all kinds of things, painting. There's all kinds of things that people are good at. And when you can find those things, that's why people always, they say work on your weakness. I think that's kind of garbage. I think you should be working on where you're strong, because that's where you're going to feel good. let's say for the last, let's say you got the new Madden football. It's going to come out like any minute now, probably, because new season's coming, right?
Right.
You're jamming on it for the next 3 months, and it come like October or something, you're like, hey man, let's play Madden football. Well, I don't want to play Madden football because I suck at it.
Yeah.
It's your strength, so you want to do it. When we go and lift, Smokey wants the bench, right? That's where he's strong. And, I think you can utilize those things, utilize those strengths to make yourself feel good about yourself. And it's fine to have that one thing that you can kind of rest your hat on all the time. And so, I say it all the time, the greatest respect that you're ever going to earn is self-respect, and the greatest power that you can possibly have is to have willpower. There's nothing that you're going to admire more in somebody than for them to have willpower. Think about any great leader that you've ever seen or any person that you put up on a pedestal, like, man, I really love that guy because he's so wishy-washy. Oh man, I love the way that guy, is flip-flops on his diet all the time and just is fat 24/7.
Right.
I really love the way that guy cheats on his wife all the time and keeps fucking up, and right, like you're it's almost when people don't do stuff that you're more mesmerized by that than you are by what they actually do.
Mm-hmm.
Like Stan just not eating junk.
Yeah.
We're not impressed that he eats good food. We're not impressed that he eats clean food. We all do that. And we do it a lot. We do it frequently. Like most of us in this gym, a lot of us had made commitments where 3, 4, 5, and sometimes every meal of every day for sometimes a couple days in a row for some of us. We're stringing together a pretty good reputation with the foods that we've chosen that we choose to eat. But it's when you can avoid, like, what's there's many differences between like someone like Stan and myself, but more modern day of the last 5 years or so, Stan may have better genetics, and there may be some other things in there, right? Maybe he works hard. I don't even know, but it's what he's been able to avoid. Like, I have some drinks here and there. I do things a little differently than him. I may eat some chocolate here and there. I may have some ice cream here and there. I may just go off the diet for sometimes I go off my diet for 2 weeks. I'm like, fuck it. And I don't go crazy, but sometimes I just do stuff like that. And it's almost like what the person doesn't do, where you're just like, man, that guy's got his shit together. Yeah. And so, by making choices of, not drinking coffee, making choices of not going to bed late, making choices of not succumbing to all these things that are just there that we all want to fall victim to.
Yeah. Dude, I hate to do this, but Andy's texting.
Yeah. No, I need to get out of here. Hey, guys, it's been a great podcast again. Make sure you give the video a like, comment below, let us know who you want to see. We're working on a lot of great guests. We're working on a lot of good stuff. Leave us some comments over at iTunes. There's going to be some really cool stuff we're going to do coming up soon with some reward programs that we're going to do for the customers that we've had over the years. And there is a discount.
Yeah. So if you, what is it? Sorry, I got a little tongue-tied. I was tongue-tied. I was looking to close the show out. But yeah, at checkout at markbellslingshot.com, you can enter a code Power Project, and that'll get you 15% off any and all slingshots.
Get yourself a book, The War on Carbs.
There you go.
And I'm going to end this podcast the way I used to end all the other podcasts. It's been a while. So let me see if I can get this right. Multiply your hustle, multiply your muscle, and may all your shits be tapered. I'm Mark Smelly Bell, and I'll catch you later.